NoDQ Galaxy, we are live with the premiere edition of Lunch Break here on the NoDQ.com YouTube channel. Thank you to everyone watching, whether it's live or on demand. It is noon Eastern, October 17th. For today's stream, I will be discussing the news. I will be talking about some of the news over the past several days in the world of professional wrestling and giving my opinions on the news. That's what this is about. Chat room, feel free to leave a comment, leave a message. I'll put some of the comments up on the screen. Now, first, let's talk about everybody's favorite wrestler, Rob Van Dam. RVD and Katie Forbes have announced the launch of Only Wrestlers. This is a new subscription-based website, obviously similar to OnlyFans. I saw a comment, and I think that they missed the opportunity to use the term Only Slams. I'm not personally going to sign up to this website, but best of luck to them. It's like a Patreon, but any content they want. Does that mean we're getting naked wrestlers on Only Wrestlers? Are we getting pornographic images? I don't know. Or are they just going to do interviews with fans or cameo type videos where they give shout outs? I'm not really sure what they're going for with this, but there's already so many subscription websites out there. If they can get some heavy hitters to join the site, maybe it'll work. We'll see. Bryan Danielson was called the best of all time by Tony Schiavone. Is Bryan Danielson the best of all time? That's tough to say. It depends on the criteria. What do you consider to be the best? Best draw? Best in-ring wrestler? Best promo? Best of everything? Look, as far as just being a pure wrestler goes, Bryan Danielson is top tier. He would absolutely be in the top 10, maybe even the top 5. But if we're including everything, not just in-ring wrestling skills, but mic skills and drawing power, if you look at the whole package, he's not in my top 10. I would maybe put him top 25. He would be in the upper tier when you consider all the attributes, but I think that Tony Schiavone's just saying that, and they always say it. When Sting retired, Sting is the greatest of all time. When Ric Flair retired, Ric Flair is the greatest of all time. You see what I'm saying? Bryan, no doubt, one of the best wrestlers of the 21st century. Absolutely, 100%. But the best of all time, I think that's stretching it a little bit. Now, the Bella Twins' mom, Kathy, is no longer married to WWE official John Laurinaitis. It was confirmed on the Bella's podcast. Brie talked to her mom on the podcast. This is absolutely not a surprise. Once the news came out, it was a given that this relationship was probably not going to last. But my question is, how did they even get together in the first place? Because John Laurinaitis, let's be real here, going back 10, 15 years ago, he was not likable in the wrestling world. A lot of people were critical of John Laurinaitis. But maybe he charmed her and he was able to marry her, but it is apparently over, and I feel sorry for the family, the Bellas, everything that Nikki is going through. Brie seems to be doing well. Her husband is now home for the time being. But yeah, it's been a rough year for the family, and I absolutely wish them the absolute best that they can get through this and see better days ahead. A music star has teased a run with WWE following his guest appearance at SummerSlam, and that person is Jelly Roll. Look, if he's passionate about it and he can get good, more power to him. I'm not going to judge this without seeing it play out. Bad Bunny turned out to be a great performer in WWE. Logan Paul turned out to be a great performer in WWE. I think the key to this is the celebrity, and if they want to do it, if they have the passion for it. Not everybody's going to be good at it, but I feel like having the desire to do it is half the battle. I'm so tired of seeing celebrities that are just there for the paycheck or to promote something. If Jelly Roll's a legitimate fan, and it does seem that he is, let him have a shot if he wants to do it. Let him go to the Performance Center, and maybe you can do something with him and get some more eyeballs on WWE. I don't see a problem with it, as long as he wants to be there. Lots of talk about AJ Lee making the rounds. AJ Lee has been retired for almost a decade now, but WWE stars are going on social media and they're pushing for her to come back. And apparently WWE is interested in bringing her back. If she wants to come back, the door is open. I'm not surprised by this with CM Punk back in the fold. I think Triple H, Nick Khan, I think they would be thrilled if AJ Lee came back. Now, will she come back? There's been various reports that she's been hurt. Even if she wanted to come back, she might not physically be able to do it. I think if I had to bet, if I had to put money on this, I would say she comes back for at least one more match. I don't know when, if it would be a Royal Rumble, but I think we will see her back in a WWE ring at some point. I think there's a really decent shot of that happening, at least for one match. Now, will she come back and do a full-time run? That I'm not expecting to see happen. But for her to come out there one time, mix it up with some of the current women, like in a Royal Rumble scenario, I think that could definitely happen. I think there's money to be made. If AJ Lee is physically able to do it, it's an easy payday for her. But the question is, number one, not just her health, but is it something she wants to do? She shouldn't come back if she just wants to collect a paycheck. She should come back if she actually has the bug to do it again. Shout out to TJS, longtime NoDQ viewer and contributor. Big Dave Bautista fan, especially after today. TJS says, currently in a firm-wide meeting, and they are opening with a word of prayer. Not kidding. Well, you are in Arkansas. What is more significant, Raw on Netflix or SmackDown on Fox? SmackDown on Fox was a big deal for WWE, but I think that Netflix could potentially be even bigger when you look at the reach of Netflix being a worldwide platform. WWE may gain a whole new fan base with this Netflix deal. People that are just randomly looking on Netflix, they see this WWE Raw show, they're like, okay, I'll check it out, and they might get hooked on it. I feel that Netflix is absolutely a big deal. I feel like the future continues to be with streaming, and cable television is going to continue to fade as time goes on. You have to go with the technology, and Netflix has been the company that has been groundbreaking and changing the game. That's where the technology is, and I would say Netflix is the bigger deal. But yes, the jury is still out on that, and I agree with Jeff. Nothing can be said for sure until we see how things play out on Netflix and what kind of content we get and how much of a reach they gain from it. We have another story about AEW's Powerhouse Hobbs. So he is cleared. He has gone on record. He has said that he is ready to go. He was injured for roughly 6 months, and he's ready to go. The question is, where does he fit in with AEW? He wasn't on Dynamite this week. I could see him being part of MVP's group. You got Shelton Benjamin. Bobby Lashley is coming in. MVP has been handing his business card to various people. I don't think Powerhouse Hobbs is going back to the Don Callis family. Don Callis now has Brian Cage and Lance Archer with him. I think that Powerhouse Hobbs, his next step is joining MVP's group. Now, can AEW take Powerhouse Hobbs to the next level at this time? That remains to be seen. He's had numerous start and stop pushes, just like Miro, just like Ricky Starks. He beat Chris Jericho about a year ago, and that ended up going nowhere. So I'm not getting my hopes up. I think Hobbs has a lot of potential to be a major star. I just don't know if it's in AEW. I think his real potential might be elsewhere. So we'll see what happens with Hobbs. Kevin Owens. What is going on with him? Rumors of his contract coming up at the end of the year, going into early 2025. He recently turned heel. Does he actually leave WWE and go to AEW? I would bet against it. Look, he could have left a couple years ago, end of 2021. AEW was red hot. They were at their peak. And Vince McMahon was still in charge of the company. He stayed with WWE. I just don't see him leaving. I don't see Triple H letting him go. I think Triple H will make sure that Kevin Owens gets paid the money that he ultimately deserves. Kevin Owens has been busting his ass for WWE for a decade now. So I would be shocked if he left the company. Now, Edge did. Adam Copeland did. Adam Cole walked away. Bryan Danielson walked away. It can happen. But my gut feeling is he's going to be staying with WWE. And there's still stuff for him to do. What about Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn at WrestleMania with Zayn as the babyface and Owens as the heel? They haven't done that yet. That's something that they could do for Owens for this year's WrestleMania coming up. All right, TJS threw in another $5 super chat. Thank you for that, TJS. I appreciate it. He's got a comment here and a question. He says, I'm a big Hulk Hogan guy now, though. And what is for lunch today after the NoDQ lunch break? Protein shake for me. Thoughts on the Repo Man stealing Randy Savage's hat? Man, that's old school. That's back from the beginning of Monday Night Raw. It was goofy, but I liked Repo Man. I thought it was an entertaining gimmick. It obviously had a shelf life, but I liked it. To answer your question, I did like that segment. One of the early episodes of Monday Night Raw, one of the first storylines they had on that show. But it was entertaining. It was campy, but I liked it. I already had lunch. Had Marco's Pizza for lunch. Figured I'm doing the stream today. I'm going to have a treat. I usually don't eat pizza, but we watched this YouTube chef who said Marco's Pizza is the best chain pizza that he's ever had. So we gave it a shot, and it was pretty solid. I don't know if I would say it's my favorite, but I did enjoy it. TJS says Marco's is top 3 for him. Jeff Meacham sent in a $2 super chat. good old JM Jeff Meacham, longtime No DQ contributor, going back almost to the beginning, since 2002. Jeff says, still considering joining Noah Foster at TNA Bound for Glory. Well, I'm going. I will be there at Bound for Glory. This will be my first TNA event since 2012, I believe, when Bobby Roode was the champion. It's been a while. That was a house show in, where was it? California. I'm blanking on the name of the town, but it's in San Bernardino County, in that area. Wow, I'm blanking. I cannot think of the town. But anyways, yes, I will be at Bound for Glory. Looking forward to it. Should be a fun show. Curious to see what TNA is like these days in person. And Rhino is going into the Hall of Fame. Bob Ryder, too, who was a big part of TNA from the beginning of the company. And he was working for WCW back in the day. So Bob Ryder really went back a long time to the early days of the internet wrestling community. So that'll be cool to see that. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the show coming up, Bound for Glory in Detroit, Michigan. It'll be good to see Noah Foster, the Simple Man, again, and maybe we'll do a live stream giving our thoughts. We'll have to see how timing goes with everything. All right, so we got, by the way, it was Ontario, California. I just blanked out on the town name. Ontario is Inland Empire, and that's where the TNA show was, and WWE's been running there. AEW runs there occasionally. Okay, Brock Lesnar. That's one of the big topics, maybe the biggest news story I'm talking about today. There were a couple of teases on Raw. Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes brought up how they have slain beasts during their careers. What does this mean? Is this a sign Brock Lesnar's coming back? People have been speculating on it, but then there were other reports that WWE apparently has no interest in bringing them back, or at least certain people in the company have no interest in Lesnar coming back. Here's how I see it. I don't necessarily think the Slain Beasts line meant anything. Now, granted, WWE has done teases in the past, little subtle lines thrown out on television. I just think it's to put over Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins, that they've beaten guys at the caliber of Brock Lesnar. I don't necessarily think that it means anything. Will Brock Lesnar return? I think it depends on the Vince McMahon lawsuit, which is still being played out. It still has a ways to go before it's resolved. And Brock Lesnar was named in that lawsuit. And there's negative publicity if WWE brings him back right now. I could see him coming back one day. But the question is also, do you even need Brock Lesnar? I'd love to see Brock Lesnar versus Gunther. I think that would be a great big man match. I think it would be a match that fans would be interested in. But Gunther's doing great as he is. You got Braun Breaker, who's a badass. You got Oba Femi in NXT. They got these badass characters. They really don't need Brock Lesnar. So I would not take the risk on bringing Brock Lesnar back anytime soon when he's not needed. Maybe eventually he could come back for one final run, go into the Hall of Fame, but I would be surprised if he shows up anytime soon. WWE business is still on fire. WrestleMania 41 is going to be a huge success. You got John Cena. You got The Rock, unless he's not doing WrestleMania, but I'm not buying that. WrestleMania is going to do great with or without Brock Lesnar, and I would say it's wrestling. Anything's possible, but I'm leaning towards him not showing up anytime soon. Logan Paul has talked about potentially coming back and having a match with Jacob Fatu, which is very interesting. Logan Paul is a hated heel. I would not see how that would work unless Jacob Fatu turns babyface. As far as Logan Paul goes, as great as he's been, I'm not really sure where he goes from here, because we've seen him in the ring with the big guys like Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns. He's been in there with some of the mid-card names, such as LA Knight. I guess they could do a rematch with LA Knight. But Jacob Fatu just doesn't really make sense to me, because they're both heels, number one. And number two, does anybody believe Logan Paul would have a chance with Jacob Fatu? Jacob Fatu should probably be destroying Logan Paul. I don't think that's the right match. They got to put Logan Paul in there. Logan Paul should be a heel. Logan Paul's got to be in there with a top baby face. I think that's the dynamic that works the best. Another shout out to good old JM Jeff Meacham, who sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. Says, what's the likelihood of a Rift presence at WrestleMania week in Las Vegas? As much as I would like the idea, it's probably not going to happen, just with other things going on in 2025. I'd love to go to a wrestling show at the Sphere. That's on my bucket list, even though the ticket prices for that would be insanely expensive. I really don't have much of an interest in going to a stadium WrestleMania. Been there, done that. I feel like if I went to Las Vegas for WrestleMania, I'd want to watch WrestleMania on the network and do the shows at the arenas and go to the Sphere if they were running an event there. But if they're not running the Sphere, I really don't have that much interest in spending that kind of money and sitting in a stadium for WrestleMania. It's just very difficult. As it is, we might be doing the Royal Rumble. That's coming up in Indianapolis, and there was talk of us potentially doing that. So I think that's more likely than WrestleMania at this point. So Pro Wrestling Illustrated announced their list, their top 250 women wrestlers in the world for 2024. I'm very curious as to what everybody thought about this list. Toni Storm came in at number 1. Do you guys agree with that? I think Toni Storm had a fantastic year, and I think you could argue, for the sake of her being active for pretty much the whole year, and she was champion. It's a kayfabe list, so you have to look at it that way. Rhea Ripley is the biggest star in wrestling as far as the females go. Toni Storm's not on Rhea Ripley's level of stardom. But if we're talking kayfabe, Rhea Ripley was out for a good part of the year with her injury. Because of that, I think you could make an argument for Toni Storm being number 1. But, I mean, I would definitely have Rhea at the top just because she is the biggest star for the women's division in any division, the biggest women's star in the world. But Toni Storm definitely, I think, is worthy of being number 1. And we'll see what happens when the NoDQ awards come up and who gets voted as Female Superstar of the Year. If Toni Storm wins, I would not have a problem with that. I think she's had a great year. So there was a little bit of a back and forth between Rikishi and former WWE writer Vince Russo. Russo, he likes to say things to get attention. He says controversial things. That's what podcasters do. And he basically criticized Jey Uso for being emotional after winning the Intercontinental title and being all choked up and not being able to talk. Russo wasn't a big fan of that. And Rikishi responded by telling Russo to go F himself Rikishi was very defensive of his son. Look, I don't have a problem with wrestlers getting emotional. Yes, the titles are props, but they do mean something, and they can draw money. I do believe that championships can draw money if they're seen as something important. I mean, people buy the replica titles. They obviously have an investment in the titles. So, yeah, it's a fake championship. It's not real, but to them, it symbolizes all the hard work and sacrifice that they put in. And if you're going out there and you're showing that emotion, the audience is more likely to care about you and get invested in you. And as a result, they're going to spend money on you. And that's how you become a successful wrestler, by getting the fans emotionally invested in your character and what you're doing. So yeah, I'm siding with Rikishi on this one. I think Vince Russo is just saying stuff to get people listening to his podcast. He's kind of like a shock jock in a way, just says things knowing that people will get worked up. A lot of them do it. And Jeff, I think that would be very fitting if you and I did the year-end awards again this year. So we'll talk about that as the time draws closer. Arn Anderson revealed that CM Punk, after the Bad Blood Hell in a Cell match, he went to the Legends and asked for feedback on his match with Drew McIntyre. I think this is great. I think that it shows that CM Punk is a smart wrestler, because there's always room to grow. This is a saying that you can never stop learning, and you're never going to get better unless you keep learning. And I think that CM Punk can always hear a different perspective on something, and that can better him as a performer. I think it's awesome that Punk asked Arn Anderson and asked the Legends what they thought of the match. That is a professional, and that is the sign that CM Punk is a great performer, because he's learning from the best. To get good at something, you have to learn from the greats. And even if you think you know it all, there's always more you can learn. Props to CM Punk on that one. The Undertaker talked about Braun Breaker's potential in WWE. The Undertaker sees a lot in Braun Breaker, as do I. Braun Breaker, at this point, he's on his way. He is going to be a top guy unless he self-destructs on a personal level. Braun Breaker is really solid in the ring. He's got that presence. He's believable. When he comes out there, you know somebody's going to get their ass kicked. Braun Breaker's great. And I think he has the potential to be better than his parents, or not his parents, his parent, Rick Steiner, and his uncle, Scott Steiner. I think he's going to surpass the Steiner brothers at the rate he's going. I mean, he's phenomenal. Now, Cody Rhodes' WWE Championship run has seen mixed reviews. There was one WWE Hall of Famer that gave Cody's run a 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10 is decent, but obviously a lot of room for improvement. Look, I would not go that low. I do think that his run has been a little bit disappointing, because he hasn't had the top level opponents to go up against. Nothing against AJ Styles or Kevin Owens, but those very much felt like filler storylines, filler programs to kill time. And you never really believed that AJ had a chance or Kevin Owens had a chance. I would go a little bit higher. I'd go with a 7, maybe an 8. Definitely not the best WWE title run of all time, but I think it's been good. And I wouldn't say it's been a disappointment because look at WWE's numbers. They're still doing very well. Cody on top has kept the business strong. It's not like Cody won the title and business collapsed. They're still doing well. He comes out there, he gets great reactions, and the matches with AJ and Kevin Owens were great. The only thing that I would have done differently is I would have done a better job of building up people before WrestleMania, knowing Cody Rhodes was going to win the title, build those stars up so when Cody won the title, he had some serious threats right out of the gate. That's the only thing I would have done differently. And it was Rikishi that said that, by the way. So Rikishi's also saying things to get podcast clicks. All right, last story I want to cover here. Nia Jax commented on possibly joining the Bloodline. I think that if she was going to join the Bloodline, it would have happened already. Same thing with Naomi. I talked about this for years. Naomi should join the Bloodline. And other people were saying, what about Nia Jax? They could have done that a while ago. WWE chose not to do it. And Nia Jax is doing fine on her own now. She's arguably at the peak of her career. She's women's champion. She has credibility. And she really doesn't need to get mixed in with the Bloodline at this point. Although you could put her in with Solo's Bloodline and then have Naomi join Roman Reigns' Bloodline. Never mind. It's not going to happen. I need to stop fantasy booking it. I don't think it's going to happen, but never say never, right? So on that note, I will wrap up this edition of Lunch Break. Let me know what you thought about the video. Do you want to see more of these streams? I appreciate everyone that tuned in live for this one. Let me know. Leave a comment what you thought about this stream. If you want to see more, I will do more if the demand is there for it. So leave a comment and share this video. Give it a thumbs up, share it, spread the word, and maybe we'll do more of these. I definitely feel a lot more energized in the afternoon doing these. So we'll see how this goes in the future. Take care, everybody. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for all the latest wrestling news and rumors. Say yes to NoDQ, and I will see you all next time.